Brothers, what if freedom were just one ticket away? You're standing at the airport, a one-way ticket in your hand. No wife demanding where you're going, no arguments about money, no children to drag along. Just you, your passport, and the open road ahead. For many men over 50, this isn't a fantasy, it's a reality. They've walked away from the chaos of marriage, the battles of divorce, the constant drama, and they've discovered something incredible: freedom through solo travel. It doesn't matter if you're 55 or 75, the world is waiting. And for men who once felt trapped in relationships that drained them, stepping out into new countries, new cultures, and new experiences feels like rebirth. In today's video, we're diving into the stories, the psychology, and the wisdom behind this growing movement. Older men choosing solo travel and finding freedom abroad. We'll hear from men who sold everything, bought RVs, or moved overseas. We'll talk about why they're happier sipping coffee alone in a quiet cafe in Lisbon than they ever were sitting in a house full of conflict. So if you've ever dreamed of packing your bags and starting over, then maybe it's time to find out why so many men are doing exactly that. One 62-year-old man wrote, "Divorced at 55 and bought an RV. Traveled across the US for 3 years. Best time of my life. Freedom every day." For him, the open road was more than just highways and campgrounds. It was proof that he could still choose his direction. Every sunrise was his alone. Every small-town diner, every mountain view, every quiet night under the stars, it reminded him that life after divorce wasn't over. It was finally his. Another man, now living in the Philippines, said, "In California, divorce took everything. Here I found peace, a community, respect, and a new family. Back home, he was just another divorced man, carrying the weight of legal papers and financial loss. Abroad, he found something different, neighbors who welcomed him, a pace of life that was slower, kinder, a respect he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't running away from his past, he was walking into a place that let him breathe again." And then there's the 70-year-old who shared, "I travel alone through Europe every summer. I sit in small towns, meet new people, and for the first time in decades, I feel alive." For decades he had lived in silence, sitting across from someone who barely noticed him anymore. But on the road, every conversation felt fresh. Every new face was an invitation. He told us that sipping coffee in a quiet cafe in Spain, surrounded by strangers, brought him more joy than years of sitting in a house full of conflict. Again and again, older men are telling us the same thing. That solo travel gives them something marriage never did: freedom, peace, and discovery. One man put it this way, "Marriage gave me security, but travel gave me myself." Another said, "I thought I was too old to start over, but then I bought a plane ticket. Turns out, I was too old not to." These voices aren't just stories, they're patterns. Different men, different ages, different countries, yet the themes echo like a chorus: freedom without permission, peace without conflict, discovery without judgment. So why is travel, especially solo travel abroad, becoming the new path for men over 50? Because these men have lived through storms. And when they finally step on a plane with nothing but a passport and a bag, they realize something powerful. The road doesn't just take you somewhere new, it gives you back the pieces of yourself you thought were gone. 1. Freedom without permission. In marriage, even the smallest trip can turn into an argument. Where are you going? Why are you spending money on that? Who's going to take care of things at home? For years, many men lived under this constant cross-examination. Every desire to explore felt like a negotiation. But when you're single, especially after 50, you don't need permission anymore. You can book a ticket on a Tuesday and be on a plane by Friday. You can wake up in Mexico City, then decide to spend the weekend at the beach without asking anyone's opinion. That freedom isn't reckless, it's priceless. And for men who've lived decades under expectations, it feels like breathing for the first time. 2. A fresh start in a new place. After a divorce, many men feel surrounded by reminders of failure. The same house where arguments echoed, the same neighborhoods where people whisper about what happened, the same routines that keep old wounds open. Traveling abroad offers a clean slate. A man who left Ohio after his divorce told me, "Back home, I was the guy who failed at marriage. In Costa Rica, I was just a man learning Spanish and trying new food. Nobody knew my past, and I liked it that way." That's the power of distance. You're not trapped in the story others wrote about you. You get to rewrite your own. 3. Living cheaper, living better. Here's a truth many men are waking up to. Living abroad is often far cheaper than struggling to keep up in the US or Western Europe. In Mexico, a man can rent a seaside apartment for less than what he used to pay in property taxes alone. In Thailand, dinner at a small restaurant might cost less than a cup of coffee back home. In the Philippines, men talk about hiring help, eating fresh food, and still saving money, something that felt impossible in their old lives. One divorced man in his 60s put it simply, "Back home, I was counting every dollar. Here, I count every sunset." It's not about escaping responsibility. It's about realizing that life can be lived with less stress and more quality when you choose the right place. 4. Connection without chaos. Solo travel doesn't mean isolation. In fact, many men say they make more genuine connections abroad than they ever did at home. People are curious, open, and often welcoming to travelers. A man who moved to Portugal said, "In America, I felt invisible. Here, people invite me to dinner just because I said hello. The friendships may be lighter, the relationships less demanding, but that's exactly what many men want at this stage of life. It's a connection without chaos. You can share meals, stories, and laughter without walking into a minefield of arguments and hidden expectations." 5. Health and vitality. Travel keeps you moving, walking through old cities, climbing temple stairs, swimming in the ocean, exploring markets. Even the act of carrying your bag keeps you more active than sitting on the couch at home. Studies confirm that men who stay physically active into their 62nd and 72nd live longer, healthier lives. But beyond the science, there's something else. A man who hiked the Camino de Santiago in Spain at age 68 said, "I didn't just gain health, I gained courage. Every mile reminded me I wasn't done yet." Travel isn't just entertainment. For many men, it's survival. 6. Rediscovering yourself. Perhaps the most powerful reason of all. When you travel alone, you finally hear your own voice again. Without the noise of marriage, without the criticism, without the endless demands. You sit in a cafe in Budapest or watch the sunrise in Bali, and something shifts. The silence no longer feels heavy, it feels liberating. One man said, "For 30 years I forgot who I was. Alone in Thailand, on a quiet morning by the beach, I heard myself again. I remembered the man I used to be and the man I still am." That is the gift of solo travel. Not just seeing the world, but seeing yourself clearly, maybe for the first time in decades. So why does solo travel matter after 50? Because it gives men what they've been missing. Freedom without permission, a fresh start, a better lifestyle, genuine connections, renewed health, and a rediscovery of self. And once you taste that freedom, it's hard to ever go back. Let me tell you some real stories. A man divorced at 58 bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. He planned to stay 3 months. It's been 6 years. Today he teaches English part-time at a small school. Every morning, he rides a scooter down to the beach, grabs a coffee from a street vendor, and watches the sunrise over the water. He said, "I thought I was running away from my past. Turns out, I was running toward my life." For him, what began as an escape became a home. Another man, 65, lost everything in a divorce. The house, the savings, even friends who chose sides. Instead of sinking into depression, he bought a rail pass and packed a backpack. He started moving through Europe, one train at a time. In Italy, he learned to cook with locals in a small Tuscan town. In Spain, he joined a street festival and danced until midnight. In Portugal, he woke early to walk the cliffs by the sea, finally feeling the kind of peace no courtroom could take away. He wrote, "I thought I had lost everything, but on the road, I realized I still had myself, and that was enough." Then there's the widower in his 70s who decided to spend his retirement differently. Every summer, he travels alone through Europe. He doesn't rush. He sits in small cafes, strikes up conversations with strangers, and visits quiet villages off the tourist map. He said, "For the first time in decades, I feel alive. Alone, yes, but never lonely." And these aren't isolated stories. They echo across thousands of men who found renewal, not in a second marriage, but in a passport. For some, it's the chance to rebuild. For others, It's the healing rhythm of new places and new faces. But the common thread is clear. Travel isn't about leaving something behind, it's about finding something ahead. One comment summed it up perfectly. After years of marriage, travel gave me back my soul. Alone but never lonely. Huh? And maybe that's what solo travel really offers men after 50. Not just a change of scenery, but a return to themselves. If you're over 50 and thinking about traveling alone, here are a few things to keep in mind. 1. Start small. Don't feel like you need to sell everything and buy a one-way ticket right away. Take a short trip first. A week abroad can open your eyes to what's possible. Spend a few days in a nearby country, or even a different city within your own. Notice how you feel when you're free to move at your own pace. One man shared that a 10-day trip to Costa Rica gave him the courage to spend 6 months in Southeast Asia later on. Sometimes, it just takes one step. 2. Do your homework. Preparation makes the journey smoother. Research cost of living, visa requirements, and healthcare options. Some countries openly welcome retirees, offering special visas or extended stays. Others have healthcare that's affordable and accessible compared to the US or Western Europe. Knowing this ahead of time removes fear and builds confidence. You're not wandering, you're planning a new chapter. 3. Stay safe. Freedom doesn't mean recklessness. Travel smart. Learn local customs. Respect the culture. Know which areas are safe at night and which to avoid. Keep your documents secure. Many men find that when they show humility and respect, locals return it with kindness. Safety isn't about paranoia, it's about awareness. 4. Build connections. Solo doesn't mean isolated. Many men say they've built richer friendships abroad than they ever had back home. Join expat communities, men's groups, or local clubs. Volunteer. Take language classes. A retired man in Mexico told us he joined a salsa group at 62 and found not just friends, but joy he thought was gone forever. The road is wide, but you don't have to walk it alone. Woo. Pack light, live light. The less you carry, the freer you feel. Traveling with one bag forces you to ask, what do I really need? That question often spills into the rest of life. Many men discover they don't just need fewer clothes, they need fewer burdens, fewer regrets, fewer distractions. Light luggage, light living, light spirit. In the end, remember this. Travel isn't about running away. It's about stepping into a bigger version of your life. The world is vast, and time is shorter than we think. If you've carried the weight of responsibility for decades, maybe it's time to carry only a passport, a bag, and the freedom you've earned. So why are more and more men, over 50, stepping onto planes, trains, and buses with nothing but a bag and a dream? Because solo travel gives what life after marriage often doesn't: freedom, renewal, and peace. At this stage, men don't need arguments over schedules or endless explanations for how they spend their time. They don't need to gamble their savings on another relationship that might collapse. What they crave is simpler, but also far more profound. Calm mornings, new horizons, and the joy of knowing their time belongs only to them. For some, it's about rediscovery. Sitting in a cafe in Lisbon, watching the sunrise in Chiang Mai, walking through ancient streets in Rome. These small moments remind them of something they lost: curiosity, wonder, and the quiet dignity of living life on their own terms. For others, it's about survival. Travel keeps them active. It keeps their minds sharp and their hearts open. And it proves, again and again, that life after 50 isn't the end of adventure, it's the beginning of a new one. If you're a man considering this path, hear this clearly. You're not escaping. You're expanding. You're not running from your past. You're stepping into a larger version of your future. As one traveler said, I found more happiness in 1 year of solo travel than in 30 years of marriage. That's not bitterness. That's clarity. And clarity is what makes a man truly free.